right? Yeah, online students. Can you hear my voice, right? Okay. So in the last class, so I said how to create a dynamic URL, and even I said how to send the data, how to send the data to the using template, right? We have seen how to send the data using template. And even I said what are the basic steps for creating a template. Okay. So these are the things what I said in the last class. Now today, and even I said HTTP request methods. You find various request methods like get and one more is a post. Okay. Now get is a request used for reading information from server, and post is a request used for storing or doing some changes at what server side. So the default request method is get, and if you want to read data sent by using get method, you are using request.args. You are using request.args.get. Okay, you are reading the value. This is actually a dictionary. So this dictionary contain data sent by using which method? Get method. This dictionary contain the data sent using which method? Get method. Okay. Now this is what I said in the last class. So there is a get method, and you can also send data by using what post method. Again, I said one more example using get method. You can also send data by using which method? Post method. So how can I send the data using post method? And where this data gets stored, we'll discuss that. Okay. So what I'm doing is, again, yesterday, okay, yesterday we created one application. We created one project. In that you have a lot of applications. So this is what here my project folder. And in this you have a lot of applications. Now I want to create a template where I want to input name, username and password. Suppose I'm sending the data by using post method. In request method get the data what you're sending is concatenated with the URL. The data what you're sending is concatenated with URL, that is in request method get. But in request method post, that is in request method get, but in request method post, the data is not concatenated with the URL. Okay, right? So how to send the data by using post method, and how to read that post data we'll discuss now. Okay. So for this, first I'm creating one template. First I'm creating one template, that is register.html. So this is register template.html. Okay. So here I created one template, and what is the name of this template is some register underscore template dot html. Okay, assume that this is my template. Okay, right now this is a template. So here I'm trying to send the request. Here I'm writing a form action. I'm sending a request to one view function. And what is the name of that is register. And what is the request method is post. In request method post, the data is not concatenated with a URL. The request method post, the data is not concatenated with the URL. So here, okay, here. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to input some data, but I'm sending the data using which method? Post method. So here I'm writing table and I just give the border of the table, table row and table data. So what I'm trying to input is name. Okay, table data. Here I'm writing input type. Input type equal to text and name equal to name. Okay, and then table row, and table data. This is username. Okay, table data. This is username. You are trying to input username. I'm writing input type. Input type is a text and name is uname. This is a username. Input username. Okay, you are trying to input yes. Then table row and table data. So what you are trying to input is password, and there is a table data, and here I'm writing input type equal to what here? Password, and name equal to password here. So then again table row and then table data, and here I'm writing input type equal to submit and value equal to what here? Register. Okay, right? Now this is a form. Okay, this is a form where you fill the data. This is a form where you fill the data and click on submit button. Where you fill the data and click on submit button. You fill the data and click on submit button. You can verify this, open with the live server. So that is a form action. Input type is a submit. So your input type is a submit, and you are sending a request to which function? Register function. Now you can verify this. Now here you input the name. Oh, so table data. This is table data, and this is also table data. Okay, if you send this, now here you input the name and username, and you input password and click on register. Once you click on register, the request is sent to your application. The request is sent to your application. Now here I'm creating one application. This is my application 7 dot application 7.py, and here I'm saying from Flask. Okay, import what is the name of the class? Flask. From Flask, import name of the class is Flask. After importing this, you create application. You also import Flask, comma, what is the name of this here? Render template. So here you are creating a Flask application by using current module name. So underscore underscore name. And after that, you are trying to write a function. What is the name of the function? Register. And this function, you are calling it by using application.route. And here you define the path. So what is the path is given? Application, sorry. What is the path is given? Slash register. And here you are defining the request methods. And this is able to handle two request methods. One is a getter and one more is what? Post. And here you are checking if request dot method equal to get. If the request dot method equal to get, okay. If the request method is a get, okay, you are rendering. Okay, you are saying output equal to what here? Render template. What is the name of the template? Register. The template name is register template dot html. Render template register template dot html and return output. Okay, else if a request dot method equal to what? Post. You are reading the data. You are saying name equal to request dot form. Here it will return as a form, not as args. And what is the name of the field? Name. Okay, name. And I read the user name request dot form. And what I read here? User name. And next you are reading password. Okay, request dot form. And you are accessing what here? Password. And here I am saying output equal to form where you are inserting name, comma, you are inserting user name and you are inserting what here? Password. And return, what you return here? Output. So here this register will handle two requests. One is a get request and one more is what? Post request. This handle two requests. One is a get request and one more is what? Post request. It handle two requests. One is a get request and one more is what? Post request. Handle two request methods. One is a get and one more is a post. One is a get and one more is a post. One is a get and one more is a post. Okay. Now try to understand this. So after this, you run the application and you are trying to execute the application by saying application dot run. Okay, open the terminal. So what is the name of your application? Python application 7.py. So request dot method double equal, because here you are comparing it. So run the application. So run the application and here I'm writing register. So when you type the URL and press enter, this is which request? Get request. Actually, when you type the URL and press enter, it is called which request? Get request. Register template.html Request is not defined. Oh, you have to import which object here? Request object. You have to import request object. So here I'm trying to send a request by just giving what is the name of this register. You can see when you type the URL and press enter, it is what is the default request methods here? What is the default request method here? Get. If the request method is a get, what it is doing? It is rendering template. Which template is it? It is rendering register template.html and sending the output. Sending the output. Now here I enter the name, username and password. Enter the name, username and password and click on register. Once I click on register, now this time the request method is what? Post. See here. Here the request method is a get. Okay, after giving the data, see here. After typing the data, I'm sending the data. This form data I'm sending to which function? Register function using which method? Post method. Okay, now if the request method is a post, you are reading the form data by saying request.form, which value you are read name. Request.form, which value is read username. Request.form, which value is read password. And we insert these values within the string and generated output. So your application can handle both the request, that is a get request, as well as what? Post request. Okay. Now this is an example for which request? Post request. First you create a template, register template dot HTML. It's an application which handle two requests, two request methods. One is a get method and one more is what? Post method. Handle two request methods. One is get method and one more is what? Post method. One is a get method and one more is a post method. So here I created first a template. What is a template? I created a register template dot HTML. Now this is my template where I input the data and then developed application. Now this is my application 7.py. So this is my application, right? And we send the data and we read the data and we display the data. We read the data and display the data. Okay. So next we'll see how to communicate with the database. How Flask application communicate with the database. How Flask application communicate with the database. How Flask application communicate with what here? Database. So a Flask application Flask application communicate with database in two ways. Okay. One is without using ORM, object relational mapping, using ORM, without using ORM and using ORM. ORM stands for object relational mapping. So communicating with the database using object relational database. I mean object oriented programming. Communicating with the database using object oriented programming. Communicating with the database using object oriented programming. Communicating with the database using object oriented programming. That is without using ORM, and using ORM is object oriented programming, and this is without using object oriented programming, means by using which commands, SQL commands, and this is using object oriented programming, means the SQL commands are generated by ORM tool. SQL commands are generated by ORM tool. Okay. So first I'll tell you without using ORM, that is using SQL commands. Okay. So first we'll see without using, without using ORM, that is object relational mapping, means communicating with the database using classes and objects without using SQL commands, using object oriented programming. Okay, but here without using ORM means you are trying to communicate with the database by sending SQL statements. Without using ORM means communicating with the communicating with database, using SQL statements or SQL commands. Communicating with the database using SQL statements or SQL commands. Online students, can you hear my voice right? Online students, yes? Can you hear my voice? Online students, okay? Online students, can you hear my voice right? Okay. So you can communicate with the database with object-oriented programming. You can communicate with the database with SQL statements. You can communicate with the database without using SQL statements. Without using SQL statements means you are communicate with the database. You communicate with the database. Okay. Okay, right? So without using ORM means, yes, by sending SQL statements. We'll see how to communicate with how to communicate with what, MySQL database. I'll tell you how to communicate with the MySQL database. So what are the basic steps? What are the basic steps to communicate with MySQL database? Okay, first step is install MySQL database software. You have to install. You can download that. Okay. Second step is you have to install Flask for MySQL library. You have to install Flask MySQL library. You have to install Flask MySQL library, Flask MySQL DB or Flask MySQL library, and that is for communicating with which database? MySQL database. That is for communicating with which database? MySQL database. Install MySQL DB, Flask underscore MySQL DB. Okay, Flask MySQL DB. Okay, so these are the two things compulsory required. These are the two things compulsory you have to install. Okay. One, anyway, you have to install MySQL database. And second one is you have to install. Go to the command prompt. You can install it the command prompt, or you can install from here also. In VS Code, you can install from this place. How you install from this place? You just write pip install. Pip install. What is the name of this here? Flask underscore MySQL DB. Pip install Flask underscore MySQL DB. I think it is already there. Is already there. Okay, I'll try to uninstall and install again. Pip uninstall Flask underscore MySQL DB. I'm uninstalling. Oh, uninstall. Okay, uninstall Flask MySQL DB. MySQL Flask Flask underscore MySQL DB. Okay, yeah, MySQL DB, right? So pip uninstall MySQL Flask MySQL DB. So here I'm trying to uninstall it. So it is uninstalled now. I'm installing it by saying pip install Flask. Okay, Flask underscore MySQL DB underscore MySQL DB. Now it is installed. See, it is installed. How you install? You can install from terminal. You can install from terminal here. Okay. How you install from terminal? By saying like this. So this is pip install MySQL DB like this. You are trying to install like this, and MySQL software anyway, you have to install that. MySQL software you have to install anyway. So install MySQL DB. Okay. Pip install Flask MySQL DB. And that is for communicating with which database? MySQL database. Okay. So once it is installed, you verify. Once it is installed, you verify is it available or not. Okay. By just giving here you can write just create application. You create one application and run and check. So new file, and this is application 8.py, and here you have to import. What is the name of the library? Flask underscore MySQL DB. Flask underscore MySQL DB, and verify it. Is it this library is installed or not? Verify it. Is it this library is installed or not? So run the application by saying Python application 8.py. So it is given error, right? Application 8. So where it is? Flask workshop only. MySQL DB. Flask underscore MySQL DB. What is the error here? Application 8.py. Python is not recognized. Ah, oh, Python, right? Sorry. So here Now just here Python. So what is the name of this application 8.py? Now it is executed. Means there is no error. So once it is verified, then the third step is, what is the third step is, you have to configure. What is the third step is configure. So configure database properties. Configure database properties within application. Configure database properties within application using application name. You just give the application name, application object name dot config, and here you define some properties. What are the properties is, you define MySQL host, means where your MySQL is running, equal to host name. You define the host name, and application name dot config, and you have to config what, user, and here you have to give user name, database user name, and application underscore name dot config. So you have to config password MySQL underscore. Now these are predefined variable names, and you define the password here. Which password? Database password. You have to define the database password, and application name underscore. You have to define the database name, MySQL underscore DB. This is for defining what name? Database name. You have to write the database name. All this you have to configure it. This is a third step. After this, you have to establish connection. Fourth one is establish connection to what? Database. Establish connection to a database by using MySQL database, MySQL class. You have a class. What is the name of the class? MySQL class. Okay. Establish connection. How you establish connection? You establish connection with the application name. You configure it by using MySQL. It is a predefined class name. And using this MySQL, you are trying to send which properties? This application database properties by giving application name. And this will establish connection to what? Database. This will establish connection to a database. Now, what is this application name? This is application name because we configure the application by using database properties. And these properties you are sending to which class? MySQL class. This will create which object? MySQL connection object. This will establish connection to a database. Now, how it will establish connection to a database? By using MySQL class. What is the name of the class? MySQL class. And to this you are sending what name? Application name. Because you configure database properties as a part of which one? Application. It means this will establish connection by using host name, username, password, and what? Database name. And once the connection is established, the fifth one is you have to create a cursor object. You have to create which object? Cursor object. You have to create a cursor object. Create which object? Cursor object. Create a cursor object for sending SQL statements. And sixth step is, okay, commit changes. Commit changes, and you may close the connection later, right? Yes. So these are the basic steps. And total how many steps are there for establishing connection? So these many number of steps you have to follow it for establishing connection to a database. Which database? Which database? MySQL database. That is without using ORM. Means we are using SQL commands to communicate with the database. Using ORM means use object-oriented programming to communicate with the database. Now let us see application for this. So assume that this is my application from Flask underscore MySQL DB import MySQL. Okay. Import MySQL. Import MySQL from Flask import which class? Flask class. Import a Flask class and create application here. Application equal to I'm creating which application? Flask application by using name of the current module. After creating a Flask application, I'm doing configuration saying application dot means you have to do configuration, right? So database configuration config. What is the name of this data? What is the name here? Database host name. MySQL host. I'm writing here MySQL host. This is first property and where your database is running in local host. Application.config. Then next one is a next one is a username. Okay, now this is nothing but user. My database username is root. My database username is root and application.config and what is this here? Password. My MySQL database password is MySQL database password is again root. Username is a root and password is also root. And then application.config you have to give DB. Database name means this database name should available. So in my system already I created database whose name is database 10. You can see this. Go to MySQL command line client and here you give and use database 10. Already I created this database and show tables. Now in this some tables are there, but here we'll create one table. Okay. So what is my database here? Database 10. Okay, after this, you establish connection to a database. You establish connection to a database. You can say MySQL equal to MySQL by sending application. Here I display the message connection established. Now this is just to test connection established. Connection established. Only to check whether it is connection is established or not. So once you run this, now you can see connection established. This is to check only connection is established or not. See here. Now you can see the message connection is established. Okay. Now once the connection is established, what do you do it? For example, I want to create a table. Suppose I want to create a table, then I create what a cursor by saying MySQL.connection. See here, this is a predefined object. Here connection is which object? Predefined object. Okay, dot, I'm saying cursor. Why we are using a cursor for sending SQL statements? Why we are creating a cursor for sending SQL statements? Okay, now here I'm writing cursor is, I want to check, cursor is created, I send it. Now it is given some error, right? Okay, so now cursor, okay, I said here, sorry, connection dot cursor. But generally you need to create a cursor by using application context. Generally you create a cursor by using, how you create a cursor? By using application context. Okay, now here you have to import one more library. And what is it is import MySQL DB. You are importing MySQL DB, MySQL DB. Okay, MySQL DB dot, what is the name of this here? Cursor. So this is available in MySQL DB dot cursor. Now here I send a context here. I send a context by saying MySQL DB dot cursors. MySQL DB dot cursors. Okay, MySQL DB dot cursors. You have to create a cursor here. How you are creating a cursor? By saying MySQL DB dot cursors, MySQL DB dot cursor, and dictionary of cursor dot, you are saying dictionary, you are saying dictionary of what? Cursor. So you have to send the context here. But already are we created? Now if I run this, again it is given error, right? So MySQL DB dot cursors, I said MySQL DB dot cursors, right? Yes. I said MySQL DB. Here I use MySQL DB. Here I import MySQL DB, right? I import MySQL DB. MySQL DB dot cursors. I said MySQL DB dot what? Cursors. Okay. Now is it imported or not? MySQL DB dot cursors, and you are using dictionary cursor. You are using dictionary cursor, MySQL DB dot cursors, dictionary cursors. Let's see it, because this is not installed. Actually, import MySQL DB dot cursors. MySQL dot connection. MySQL dot connection dot, what is this? MySQL dot connection dot cursor. Correct only. MySQL dot connection dot cursor. What is this MySQL DB dot cursors dot dictionary cursors? Correct only, yeah. I don't know where his error is. Dictionary of cursors. MySQL DB. MySQL DB dot cursor. MySQL DB. Correct only. We'll just check in the, yes, 1 minute. So MySQL DB dot cursor. Oh, we need to install MySQL Python. Yeah, we need to install MySQL DB.connect. But that is predefined connection we are using. So import MySQL. Now you have to import these two libraries. Pip install MySQL Python and MySQL Python connector. So install to this MySQL Python. What happened? I don't know. Right? But actually you install like this. So not required. Pip install MySQL Python connector. We'll just check this. MySQL Python. We'll check MySQL Python here. Not required. But actually not required. We'll check, just check this. MySQL client. Okay. Oh, we'll see it. Otherwise, we'll just check where is the mistake is. Which one? Application like this, huh? Okay. But actually, you can do like this. You don't require, so you can directly give like this. Cursor class. Okay. Let's remove this. Yeah, you can do this. Okay. So not required to do anything, right? You can write like this. Cursor dot dictionary cursor, right? Yeah, you can do like this. MySQL db dot cursors dot dictionary cursor, right? You can write like this, or you can also write like this. I mean, both are same only. Now here cursor is, now here what will happen is cursor will be created. And once the cursor is created, you can access that cursor here. Okay. See, you can write like this. You can write that like this and then create cursor object. And here I'm writing MySQL db.cursors, dictionary cursors, and run the application. See, dictionary cursor we created. So I actually written this cursor, MySQL cursors dot class, and here, so this will establish connection, and here you'll say MySQL dot connection, MySQL dot connection dot. Now what I'm saying is here cursor. So already we configure, right? Why it is not working? We'll just check otherwise. Flask database MySQL. Okay. So what you're doing is you install this and MySQL.connect connection.cursor. That's it. Can directly give MySQL.initialize application. Oh, I created MySQL, but already after this MySQL initialize the application. Same thing we did. So MySQL with application. That's it. And then MySQL.connection.cursor. That's it. What is the problem is, I don't know. So database dot cursor. So here also did the same thing. MySQL dot MySQL dot connection dot cursor. That's it. Host name, database name. Array, what happened here? MySQL dot connection dot cursor. So you can create a cursor object directly by saying MySQL dot connection dot what I said here cursor. You don't require even this is also. You just create a cursor directly. MySQL dot connection dot cursor. So that will create which object here? Cursor object. And using that cursor object, you send all SQL statements. Using that cursor object, you send all SQL statement. Okay, we'll say application dot run, right? MySQL DB database 10 root localhost MySQL password localhost root database 10. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just write one function and then we'll check. Okay, we'll write one function for creating a table. Okay. Okay. Then we'll see whether it's working or not. Yantokatenam. So nothing you have to do it. You have to create a cursor object. So here I'm writing one function. So this is a function to create. What we are doing is we are creating a table. We are creating a table and this function I'm calling it with one name. And what is the name I'm giving is create. Okay, the name is given what here? Create. And here I'm creating a cursor. Cursor equal to MySQL dot connection dot cursor. So actually this will create a cursor object and cursor dot execute. Cursor dot execute. Cursor dot execute. Now application dot route. Cursor dot execute. Create a table. I'm creating one table here. I'm writing a function that will create a table. So this is my command. The command is I'm giving in multi-line. So create a table. Table name is user registration table. User registration table. It is having a name. Name is some varchar. Name is a varchar some 20. Okay, name is a varchar 20. And username is again varchar 20. And I define this as a primary key. And password is, I'm writing a password is again varchar 20. Okay, now this is my command and execute the command by saying command and return table created. Return table created and then I run the application. So this is my application. Okay, right? Yes. Run the application. So here I'm calling my function by saying create. Now table is created. See in the backend. Now show tables and see a table is what created. Oh, what is a table here? User register. The problem is we have not created application context. Means we have to write a function to perform this cursor and all the things. If you don't create a function and perform, so that leads to what? Errors. That leads to errors. Okay, you have to write inside a, should not write here. You should write inside a function. Okay, should not write here. Should write inside a function. Okay, right? So you should write inside a function. Okay, you should write inside a function. So until unless application context is not created, you cannot call it. That is a mistake what we did. I try to call it directly, right? That is given error. So otherwise, now this is creating table. Once the table is created, see here. Now this is creating table. So this is a Flask application which created table. Now this is a application which create, okay, which create a table. This is an application which create the table. Okay. So once the table is created, you can perform all the operations like inserting, updating, deleting, everything you can do it. For example, I want to insert the data. So already, so here I'm creating one more view, that is a registering user definition, and there is a function called register, and here I'm writing @application dot route. So the name is slash register, and I'm using methods, request methods are, now this is able to handle two request methods. One is get, one more is a post. Now within the registration, if a request dot method is get, you are rendering one template output equal to a render template. Already we created one template. Already we created one template. What is a template? Register template. Render template. The template name is register template dot html, and then return output. Else if request dot method equal to post, we are reading the name. If request dot method equal to post, we are reading the name by saying request dot form. We are reading the name, and user name, where I'm saying request dot form. I'm reading username, then password equal to request dot form. You are reading the password. You are reading the name, username, and one more is a password. You are reading the name, username, and one more is a password. And after this, what I am doing, I am creating a cursor. So create a cursor. Now create a cursor and cursor dot execute. Which command are you executing? Insert into what is the name of the table? User register. Just now we created, right? What is the name of the table? User register. Values. So values, percentages, so percentages, comma, percentages, values, percentages, comma, percentages, comma, percentages, and define the parameters. So define the parameters. Now what are the values you want to insert? Define the parameters. Okay. Which value you want to insert? Just define the parameters. So what are the parameters here? What are the parameters? Execute. What is my command? Insert into, and here I'm defining values. I'm defining values and I'm inserting, right? I'm inserting into a database. I'm inserting into a database. Okay. And how can I replace the values? Yes. These are called replacement fields. These are called replacement fields. And these fields you are replacing with the corresponding value. These fields you are replacing with the corresponding values. This is called interpolation. Means inside the string you are inserting how many values? 3 values. The first value is name, username, and one more is a password. First one is name, second one is username, and third one is a password. So you are inserting, you are replacing this percentages with the value of name. This percentages you are replacing with the value of username, and this percentages you are replacing with the value of password. You are replacing with the value of password. Okay, right. Then after that, you need to save the changes, and you may do the saving of changes by saying MySQL dot connection dot commit, MySQL dot connection dot commit is nothing but save changes. So saving changes can be done by invoking which method? Commit method. So that is nothing but save changes. So you are inserting number of values, MySQL dot connection dot commit. And after that I return one message, user registered. User registered successfully. I just write user registered what successfully, right? User registered successfully. Now, this is called string interpolation. This is called a string interpolation. You are replacing how many values? 3 values. Now, this percentage is replaced with the value of name, and this percentage is replaced with the value of, okay, this percentage is replaced with the value of, this percentage is replaced with the value of, okay, this is nothing but parameters, and this percentage is replaced with the value of uname, and this percentage is replaced with the value of password. It is just like a formatting string, but there you use a curly braces, but here you are using percentage. Now run the application. So here I'm saying register. Okay, register only. Application.route register. Request object should be imported here. Comma, what is that? Request. So request is a predefined object. Now run the application. Run the application, and here I'm saying register. Now you enter the name. So there is a name and username and password, and click on register. I can see user registered. Means the data gets stored in the database. Table, select star from, see in the backend. User register. Select star from, user register. Now one row is inserted or not? Yes. One row is inserted. One row is what? Inserted. Okay. You can move here. Again, you can enter username, username and password, and click on register. Now user registered, go to the backend and select. How many users are registered? 2 users. Now this is inserting data. This is what here? Inserting data. Inserting data into the database table. Okay. But here we have not used any ORM. We have not used ORM. Now this is inserting. Then you can write login. You can also write a login. Now suppose, so there is a login. Okay, you log in by giving username and password. Application.route. Now what is the name of this here? Login. And here login, where you are sending username and password. So login. So this should render login template. So this is login template, right? I should render the login template already we developed. So output equal to, this is displaying login template. Okay, within login template, you send a request to the login. Here you write request method. Here I am writing a methods. Two methods I am using. One is get and one more method is what? Post. If request dot method equal to get, you will say output equal to render template. What is the template is login template dot html, and return output else if request dot method equal to post. If request dot method equal to post, now here I am sending the request by using a method. And what is the request method I am using? Post. Where you enter username and password and click on login. Where you enter username and password and click on login. This is login template. So you have to create login template and registration template. Two templates you required in this application. Then you read the name. Here, if the request method is a post, you are required to read the name, username equal to request dot form, request.form, and in login template username and password. I read the username, I read the password, request.form, and what I read here, password. I read the username as well as what password. I read the username as well as password. Okay, then I should send the query. So you have to create a cursor. You have to create a cursor. You have to create a cursor here. Now create a cursor and send a SQL statement saying execute. Select star from user register. Select star from user register where uname equal to percentages, and what is it, another column? So uname equal to percentages. So this is my database, and describe user register table, password, and password equal to percentages, and these values you are sending it. One is a uname and second one is a password. And you'll say cursor dot fetch one means if any row is there, it will read that row. It will read that row. If any row is there, it will read that row. It will read that row, and that row is user details. And if user is exist, means this will return one. One means it will convert booleans here. User means list. If the list is empty here, if the list is empty, it returns false. If the list is not empty, it returns what? True. Okay. If it is a true, you are saying return format user welcome. Sorry. Username welcome. Username welcome. Otherwise, you'll say return. So invalid username or password. So this is login. This is login. Now here you send the request. Once you run this, now you send a request to the login. So this is a login. Now here you enter username NIT N123 and click on login. Oh, login. So what is the request method is? Method is post username and password. Where is the error is? Login methods get post uname. Oh, uname. This is uname, right? Now NIT welcome. See here. NIT is there or not there? Yes. If I give wrong username, now you can see invalid username or password. I give the valid username, then you can see NIT welcome, right? So fetch one will fetch one row. Fetch one will fetch one row. You know Python, right? In Python, you should know MySQL. In Python, you know how to communicate with the database, right? In Python, how to communicate with the database? Uh, then same thing. Fetch one means it will fetch one row from the cursor. From the cursor, it will fetch one row. If the row is there, it will return one tuple. Otherwise, it returns none. Otherwise, it will return none. So if it is none, it will come to else. So this is how you insert and retrieve the data. Now we'll see more on this, like how to communicate with a database. Okay. Tomorrow I'll tell you one application like communicating with the database. I'll tell you one application along with the database. Okay. Okay, right? So today we'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll continue this. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, fetch one will read one row. Fetch methods are there. Fetch one, fetch many, fetch all. Fetch one, fetch many, fetch all. All these are various methods. Right? Thank you. So we'll see tomorrow. Thank you.